as you talk about ESOPs, one thing that's for certain is every private business is going to have a transition at some point in its future. It might be sooner, it might be later, but transition planning is important. One thing that the ESOP brings to the table with respect to transition planning is that it's a unique vehicle for privately held companies in that the seller can take either a fractional transaction or a 100% transaction. I said most of the transactions that we see today are 100% transactions, but that doesn't say that a 30% transaction, minority transaction for private business doesn't work. That works very well for an ESOP. The other piece about the ESOP relative to other sorts of transactions is it's a more controllable and friendly transaction. In the ESOP process, there aren't intentionally anyways winners and losers. We try to get everybody on the same page and everybody to benefit relatively equally in the process. So it's a friendly process, it's a friendly transaction. The other thing that the ESOP does that most other situations will not take care of is it provides you the ability to continue the culture that you've built, reward the employees that have come a long way with you, and make this thing last much, much longer into the future. The other side of the ESOP is that tax efficiency is a big thing. There are questions coming in early on about what's going to happen with tax law changes and the like. The biggest cash benefit probably that the ESOP brings is the ability to avoid, in many cases, all corporate income taxes and the ability to defer many personal income taxes. So with that in mind, as taxes move forward and increase, as we expect they're likely to do, the ESOP becomes a much better structure than it even already is. And the third piece is this is a great retirement plan. One of the problems that we have in society today is people don't have enough money to really retire comfortably. With the ESOP, the participants' accounts grow dramatically from what they would have been otherwise, and oftentimes we see employees retire with as much as 2 times the retirement benefit in their portfolio that they might have had without an ESOP transaction.
What's the role of a quarterback in a transaction, right? So this is a very complex process. It's a long process that's going to involve a various amount of parties from not only the selling shareholders in a company, but it's also going to have all these parties. As you see the circle around there, you have the selling shareholders, company, board of directors. There's an ESOP legal counsel. There's ESOP financial advisor. The trustee has their own advisors. There are also oftentimes what we see is wealth advisors, and they're involved, right? From the selling shareholder standpoint, they have planning from their wealth and management side of things to how are they going to invest these proceeds from the sale of their transaction? How are they going to continue to build on their future planning for the financial side of things? So we oftentimes see the wealth advisors get involved. The CPA firm from the financial side of things is involved. There's a company counsel. There's also a third-party administrator. So third-party administrator are one who is going to be administering the plans as it relates to the ESOP moving forward and how that's going to be managed going forward. So you can see there's a lot of parties that are involved. So as a goal of the quarterback is to keep the transaction moving in a way that's achieving the shareholder objectives, achieving a balance from the share company standpoint, and it's also achieving a timeline. Because oftentimes, and we'll talk about kind of the time here, but oftentimes these transactions are, about 4 to 6 months in process. Some are a little bit shorter, some are a little bit longer, but oftentimes, it's a general timeline. We would say, it's a 4 to 6 months. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So it's making sure that all parties stay engaged, all parties are working towards the same goal, and we're achieving a timeline. Timeline's important, and the goal of the quarterback is to come in and, make sure that all parties are engaged. And who is a quarterback? Quarterback is typically a financial advisor, such as Prairie, or an investment banker, as you oftentimes are referred to in an M&A transactions. So a goal of the quarterback is to make sure all parties are communicating, understanding, coordinating with all the parties from the legal side of things, from financial side of things, from the wealth management side of things, organizing that transaction efforts and executing a successful transaction. And that's really a key goal of a quarterback.
And Hirsch, one of the interesting things about the quarterback and ESOP transaction is I found that we never stop educating the sellers because there's so many nuances to an ESOP transaction that every step along the way, there's going to be a new question that we can answer and hopefully make you more comfortable with as we move forward.
Absolutely, and that's very key as we talk about what's the role of a transaction quarterback. one of the key things that I want to highlight on this page is you see the education. Education, as Dick mentioned here, it's very important. ESOPs are a unique structure. It takes a lot of education, exploration to understand. But there's also a balancing act as it relates to structuring their transaction. You know, what are the company objectives? What are the shareholder objectives? What are the employees going to be receiving? So it's a balancing act between three different things. And we'll talk about this here a little bit later. From the quarterback transport, one of the main important pieces that they're involved is a negotiation. You know, being an advisor to the company and the selling shareholders, they're negotiating on behalf of the selling shareholders. That's a very key important point of their transaction. Again, you know, there's a lot of times there's uncertainty as it relates to questions that company may have, the advisors may have. So, you know, our goal is to limit that uncertainty, be a sounding board for the management team to answer any questions as it relates to that. And also recruiting the transaction team. So all the parties we showed you on the prior page, Prairie or the financial advisor to the selling shareholder will put together a transaction team that encompasses all those parties. So, you know, recruiting a transaction team is important. And then, but more important than this, you know, this is a very emotional purchase, right, for sellers. So, you know, managing the expectations, understanding their objectives is a key in this phase. You know, understanding what shareholders are looking to achieve is a very, very important part of our role as a transaction quarterback.